I'd like to call the meeting to order. Mary, will you do roll call, please?
Ms. Cusinelli? Ms. Cantilla? Mr. Barton?
Here.
Ms. Scala? Ms. Walrath?
Here.
Mr. White?
Here.
Mr. Lamella?
Here. Mr. Edwards?
The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Brick Township Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be posted on the Administration Office Bulletin Board, the official district website, and channel BTV 20, and sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Brick Times, the Star Ledger, and Municipal Clerk's Office.
Need a motion to enter executive session?
So moved.
Second.
George and then Stephanie.
Whereas the Brick Township Board of Education has been formed pursuant to applicable New Jersey statutes, and whereas the board is charged with the responsibility of performing all acts and doing all things consistent with the laws and rules of the State Board of Education necessary for the lawful and proper conduct, equipment, and maintenance of the public schools and postal property of the Brick Township School District, and whereas Section 7 of the Open Public Meeting Act permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting of the board in certain circumstances, and whereas the board has determined that circumstances exist for such an executive session, and whereas the board has found the action described below to be necessary and proper, now therefore be resolved by the board on June 30, 2016, that the public shall be excluded from the discussion of and action on the executive session herein set forth. The session will be approximately 30 minutes, and the general nature of the subject matter to be discussed is HIB matters, TW settlement 0416, BTEA settlement 1601, special education litigation 1859, settlement agreement 9364. It is anticipated at this time that the above stated subject matter will be made public if and when it is deemed to be in the public interest to do so, and the need for confidentiality is no longer required by the board.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Scala? Yes. Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Lamella?
Yes. All right, I need a motion to return back to public meeting.
So moved.
George, first.
Second. Again.
Stephanie, second.
Ms. Cusinelli?
Yes.
Ms. Cantilla? Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Scala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Lamella?
Yes. All right. I asked for a motion in a second regarding the approval of minutes. Regarding the approval of minutes from the May meeting.
Motion.
Mrs. Cantilla?
Second. Cusinelli.
Cusinelli, I'm sorry. And who is second?
Stephanie.
Stephanie. I'm horrible with names. I'll do it right after the roll call. Roll call? Any comment on the meetings, on the approval of minutes? Seeing none?
Ms. Cusinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Scala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Lamella?
Yes. Before we go any further, I've been completely derelict, and I apologize, especially with 4th of July coming. We moved the pledge to the beginning of the meeting to do the pledge when people were here, so I do apologize. I believe in our veterans. I believe in this holiday coming up. So with that in mind, I'd like everyone to please stand and do our flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And a moment of silence, please. Thank you. The interim superintendent will introduce curriculum and instruction. Tom?
We went through committee reports?
Oh, I didn't. I asked if we had any.
Yeah.
All right. Committee reports? Victoria, you want to go first?
I have a couple of them. Curriculum and Instruction Committee meeting minutes. Our meeting was held on June 15th, 2016, and we reviewed the summer reading assignments for the middle school and the high school. There was a change for our middle school where the students are permitted a selection of a book from a selection of novels. In high school, each student will have one specific novel to read. We talked about the new English language program, and we saw all of the materials that are available to the teachers this year, this summer before the implementation of the new curriculum. The STEM Academy teacher team is going to be provided with a professional development. It happened this past week, and also there will be additional summer professional development and curriculum work in the world language, media, visual and performing arts, physics, environmental science, science K-5, and PE health K-12, as well as
Bless you.
other areas for the high school. And there are professional development days planned already for September 2nd and October 10th. And a summary of the topics to be addressed was based on teacher response to surveys for this committee. That's curriculum and instruction. The HR committee met on June 20th, and all of the items are standard for the next school year as far as agenda items this year. And the HR, did I say the HR committee met? Yes, I said that already. And the shared services committee met as regard, this is something new that we're doing this year with the township. Attending, we had Mayor Ducey and Town Administrator Bergen, Council President Paul Mumolo, CFO Scott Pizarris, and a finance person, Maureen Laffey-Berg, as well as John Barton, myself, Mr. Edwards, and Mr. Gianella. Mayor Ducey informed the committee that some green acres and municipal funds would be used to rebuild the municipal park tennis courts. These are the home courts used by our high school tennis teams. This funding is happening without a contribution from the school district. There was a broad discussion regarding the potential opportunities to share information and services about communication issues, cooperative buying, radio service, and Department of Public Works machinery. We also, as a school district, informed the mayor that we had recently completed a demographic study for the school district, and we would forward that to the mayor's office. We also received a review of a 2013 shared services analysis report that showed a benefit to the school district of approximately $1 million for such services as trash collection, maintenance of the Drum Point complex, and resource and DARE officers, among others. So we're at a big plus when it comes to dealing with the municipality.
Thank you. Stephanie, do you have anything?
Yeah, I'm going to let Mr. Edwards do it. It was a really big finance committee.
George, do you have anything for facilities?
Yeah, yes, Mr. President. The Facilities Committee is really happy to report that contracts will be awarded tonight for the paving behind, and some redesign for paving behind Brick High School, and also some redesign and paving of the parking lot of Lake Riviera Middle School. So those contracts should be awarded tonight. And also, we have accepted contracts for the improvement, renovation of the gyms at Brick High School, the east and west gyms, and also for new doors to be installed at the auditorium at Brick Memorial High School.
Thanks, George. Anyone else?
I just
Go
ask a
ahead.
question,
Miss-
please? Through the chair, may I ask, Ms. Pacala, when did the Shared Services Committee meet?
On June 6th.
June 6th. Could I please have you send me that agenda and minutes? I didn't receive that.
There was no formal agenda for that meeting because it was our first, and the minutes went out to the committee members today, so I can send them out to the rest of the board if you'd like.
Thank you, I would appreciate it. And also, through the chair again, I don't think I received any Facilities Committee minutes. Could I trouble you to send me those too, please? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Any
Mr.
other committee
Lamella?
reports?
Mr.
Is there a,
Lamella?
is there a policy committee report?
Do we have policy?
We had a
Victoria?
policy committee meeting. Stephanie?
Yeah,
There were several on.
there were, we reviewed several policies, which are up tonight for voting.
Were all the policies reviewed by the attorney? The ones that we're going to vote on for final approval?
Yes.
That's what we're-
Thank you.
What was the question? I didn't hear that.
Did the attorney review all the policies?
So there's no minutes and there's no report?
I don't know if Dr. Chagas actually got the
Okay.
minutes out for that meeting.
No, I guess not.
I guess he didn't, no, 'cause
Okay.
I'm sitting there saying, I don't remember seeing them.
Time to move to committee of the whole. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think there was a Technology Committee meeting as well, just want to point out.
What Ms. Cusinelli is referring to is there was a committee of staff members, the technology department, and some community members, and I think Mr. Barton sat in on that too, to redo the technology plan for 16 through 19. Just so the board understands, the technology plan was not mandated by the state anymore. It used to be mandated. It's no longer mandated by the state. But we were told in May that if you want to have a technology plan approved, you have to have it in by June 30th because you need a technology plan to apply for certain grants. So even though it wasn't mandated, everybody started scrambling to put it together. So we had a number of meetings. Mr. Bayo headed that department and headed those meetings. I think he had 3 physical meetings and 1 virtual meeting, and the technology plan is on the agenda for tonight.
Okay. John, do you have any further comment on that?
The plan is on the agenda. The plan would include going forward from where we started, I'm not sure how many years ago, with the initiative of bringing in laptops at the high school level, and now we're including the Chromebooks from middle school down to elementary. So very shortly, every high school student will have their own equipment.
Can you speak into the microphone, please? We
In-
can't
in
hear
the
you down
plan,
here.
Also, there's discussion of trying to work towards a paperless environment to save money. Let me think of anything else. There's a lot of technical information in the plan, the amount of bits and megabits to carry the Wi-Fi services, the importance of exposing children to the technology because our testing will involve having the students taking tests on computers in the future. And it's a look into the future. It's kind of exciting and interesting because we are now evolving. We're working towards this electronic age that we're all already engulfed in. And it doesn't seem to be going away in Bricktown right now. So I would encourage you to look through the plans. I believe that it's enough to allow us any flexibility that we would need to do as much as we can for the students and using technology. That's about all I can say right now.
May I also request having those minutes emailed to me so I could review those? I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Excuse me, through the chair, I just wanted to know, did we advertise to the community anyone that wanted to participate in our technology committee, because I was told that it was supposed to be an ad hoc committee for community members to be involved in, parents and citizens of Brick. Were there any parents or people from the community involved in it?
There were people from the community, staff members, administrators. We didn't advertise it. Like I said, we learned about this need in the middle of May. It was a short timeline, so we wanted to get up and running quickly.
Thank you.
All right. Tom, your report?
Thank you.
Mr. Lamella, sorry. Ms. Walrob, did you want me to do the Finance
Yes.
Committee minutes?
Yes.
You want to do it?
No.
Oh, Jim, go ahead.
Okay.
Long, go ahead.
So the Finance Committee met on June 20th. Mrs. Walrob, Mrs. Pacala, Mr. Gianella, and myself. We discussed the support services for at-risk student RFPs, which there were 2 responses. We had come to a conclusion on how we wanted to handle the 2 responses. Unfortunately, one of the conclusions that we thought would work did not. So at this point, we've changed, if you had read the minutes, we've changed the direction and recommendation on who we're going to be asking the board to award that support services for at-risk students RFP 2. We also had a consultant come in and give us a brief overview and presentation of an operational audit. We discussed the medical, prescription, and dental benefits for July 1st, and those are on the agenda this evening for the Board of Education's approval. We talked about the existing RFPs and RFQs and services for the Board of Education, and more specifically, services from vendors where we were looking to make changes, which are all on the agenda tonight, except for the ones that we're looking to make changes, which are still under review. We also looked at the competitive contracts that the Board of Education has done in the past, and putting those on the agenda for award, which are all on the agenda this evening. And we discussed the pending RFP, RFQ for the architectural services, which is still under review. We went over briefly the co-op vendors and state contract vendors, which in order for the Board of Education to utilize for purchasing is required by resolution for the board to approve. We talked about the Comcast Ethernet agreement, where Comcast has agreed to allow the board to enter into the Middlesex Regional Educational Services Commission co-op pricing earlier than we would have been able to under our current contract. It's going to save the board $3,407.75 a month by that. And Comcast, for what it's worth, did not have to let us do that. So that's a very nice gesture on Comcast's part to let the board lower that price. We discussed the revised cafeteria budget that Ms. Richardson submitted. The bottom line does not change at all. When she did her budget, she included depreciation for her equipment, but did not include the overall cost of the equipment. So the revised budget shows that there is a in and out for the equipment purchases that will be made in 16-17. We discussed the Viridian Solar Renewable Energy Credit Sale that was conducted, where we're currently under contract for 500 SRECs to be sold each year. That's from the solar panels at Brick Memorial High School, where we own the panels, and they generate solar renewable energy credits. We're in a 3-year deal. This is the last year of that 3-year deal for the 500 that were locked up. So in the 15-16 school year, the panels actually generated 800 SRECs, so we had 300 excess to sell. We sold those SRECs at $285 per credit to Viridian, so that contract is on the agenda for ratification. Briefly discussed the NJSIAA and Shore Conference participation resolutions that are required for both high schools. We discussed petty cash, which will be on the July Board of Education agenda for approval. We discussed renewal of the Toms River Board of Education interlocal for the purchase of vehicle parts. Toms River Board of Education last year allowed us to piggyback off of their bid that they do for the purchase of vehicle parts. It benefits both us and the Toms River Board of Education because it makes the volume of purchasing much greater, which therefore generates better pricing. We also talked about the Ocean County Vocational School Shared Service Agreement for the parking lot here outside of Brick Township High School, where we are allowed to use their parking lot for certain events and they are also allowed to use ours. We talked about the renewal of state national excess workman's compensation for the excess coverage on our workman's comp self-insured plan. We also discussed the renewal of PMA as the third-party administrator for the workman's compensation self-insured plan. Briefly discussed a request from our lead groundsman, Scott Wiley, for a grounds equipment transfer within his own grounds equipment account. He originally had budgeted for one large mower that he was hoping to purchase, and upon further review, he would like to purchase 2 smaller mowers that he feels will do better justice to his department. We discussed the agreements that are on the agenda tonight for the school-based youth services program run by Preferred Behavioral. Discussed the allocation that we received for the No Child Left Behind program, in which the Board of Education is receiving $273,558 in additional funding over that what was budgeted. We discussed the technology lease bids that came in that was approved at the last meeting in May. We did get a very favorable interest rate on that technology lease bid, 1.3%, and that lease is closing on July 14th. Notified the committee about the band uniforms, which are on the bid this evening for approval, which are under budget. Mr. Gianella discussed the facility rentals that is also on the agenda this evening to change the rate schedule that is charged to outside groups when they utilize the school facilities. And then we also talked about the Naviance agreement, which is, both agreements are on the agenda this evening for the Board of Education's approval. Naviance is a guidance software package that the high schools use for college-bound applications and student needs.
Go ahead. Any questions for Mr. Edwards? Go ahead.
When I was reviewing the minutes, there were several companies listed, vendors, that there was talk of appointing them possibly at next Thursday afternoon's meeting as a non-fair and open appointment. Are all of those under $40,000?
Actually, that's been changed. Yeah.
Yeah, that's since
Yeah, I'm
changed.
sorry, that's-
We're no longer appointing them at that meeting. There's not a need to do that. If they are appointed, they'll be appointed at the July 28th meeting.
So none of them will be next Thursday afternoon,
That's correct.
That's
but they
and
were
in-
all under $40,000?
They are under 40,000. The auditing services will be, yes. Architect and engineer, I don't know. It depends on what projects, if any, the board decides that they want to move ahead with. At this point, we don't have any, so right now they'd be appointed just of record.
But that's allowed then to be appointed as a non-fair like that? If it's
Sure.
over 40, you don't have to,
If it's professional service, yeah.
Okay.
There's no limit on professional services as far as non-fair and open.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
We're done? All right, Mr. Gianella?
Again?
Again, you're up.
Good evening. Just a few things, and June is a busy month. The night after our last meeting, we had the Brick Township Relay for Life. It was a great event. I saw some board members there. It was really exciting to see one of our Brick High School graduates, Todd Durkin, lead us in that event, and we are happy to say that he has agreed to come in September and talk to our faculty and be a motivating speaker. So it was really a great event. End of the school year, a lot of different events, 5th grade tributes, DARE graduation, middle school graduation, high school graduation. Let me just say that I could not be prouder to be a resident of this community and to be an administrator here with the conduct of our high school graduation and the middle school graduation that I went to. The students were excellent. It was well done. I congratulate the administration and the staff at all of those schools for really an outstanding job. We also had a number of student recognitions and teacher recognitions, but I'm going to ask Ms. McNamara to step up and perhaps just talk about one individual and an outstanding job that she's done and really a tribute to our school district. Ms. McNamara?
Thank you, Mr. Gianella. Good evening to the board and to all of the folks that are here this evening. Every year we award Teacher of the Year, and a couple of months ago we had all of our Teachers of the Year recognized at the board meeting along with our District Teacher of the Year. At that time, all of those teachers, along with teachers from throughout the county, submit their application to be considered for the County Teacher of the Year. This is an important step. They are recognized as the best of the best in their profession. Their instructional practice is extraordinary. They are at the very cutting edge of instruction for their area. And so for the second year, we are very pleased to tell you that the Brick Township Public Schools has the County Teacher of the Year. She is an exceptional educator. She is a leader in STEM education in our district. She's a 5th grade teacher at Emma Havens Young Elementary School. Please welcome and congratulate Jeanette Weiner, the Ocean County Teacher of the Year.
Thank you. As an educator, data guides my instruction, so I have some data to share with you. Ocean County has 29 school districts and over 105 public schools. Brick Township has achieved something that no other of those districts can say that they have. Starting with Nan Evans in 2012 and Brittany Bucko in 2015, Brick schools have had not one, not two, but 3 Ocean County Teachers of the Year in the past 5 years. So I am honored to be this year's representative of excellence in teaching. Thank you.
And that's the superintendent's report.
Thank you. I want to move on to curriculum and instruction. Mr. Giovanella.
The superintendent recommends curriculum instructions number 1 to 7.
I need a motion and a second.
Motion?
Karen
Second.
and Stephanie. Thank you. Any discussion? Go.
Just one question through the chair. What is the ratification on number 5, please?
I think it pretty much explains. It's an award possibly for as much as that $333,000. That's going to give us an opportunity to compete for a program to help our students, our special ed students, after high school succeed.
But what changed since, because it's a ratification, which would indicate that something is different than what was previously approved, and I didn't recall what
No,
it was.
I don't think it was something different. I believe it's because the deadline has been passed.
Okay.
And we had to submit it already.
Great, thank you.
Karen, anyone, any other questions? Mary? Oh, public? Oh, any public comment on curriculum? Seeing no one? Now, Mary, thank you.
Ms. Cusinelli?
I'm abstaining on just Monmouth University in number 3, and yes to the rest.
Ms. Cantillo?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Capala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Lamella?
Yes. Tom, if you'll now give us your
Mr. Edwards, can you handle operations?
report.
The interim superintendent recommends that the board approve items 1 through 56 and items 58 through 60.
I need a motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
John is the first.
Move. Second.
George is the second. Any board questions?
Yes, I have a few questions.
Go ahead, Victoria.
As to number 7, I noticed that there was an inordinate amount of ink and toner and Xerox ink and toner available as surplus equipment. Have we done something to adjust purchasing to avoid waste?
Jim, can you answer what we do with the stuff that's put up for surplus?
The stuff that you see from Xerox is stuff that we did not really purchase. We had a fixed contract with Xerox that provided the ink and toner. This is all stuff that they left behind when that contract ended, that we've contacted them multiple times to come pick up, and they have not. So we finally sent them a letter telling them that if they didn't pick it up or respond by a certain date, that we would be putting on our agenda for surplus to sell it, so that we can get it out of our schools.
Thank you.
Okay, and as far as the out-of-district student placements, I'd just like to reiterate that I hope to see an audit report soon as to what services we can provide in district at a lower cost within the IEP parameters for these students.
The special ed audit that you're mentioning, I just received the draft of that report last week. We're having a meeting in July with the Educational Commissions of New Jersey to review that, and then I'll be sharing it. Once we get the final draft, we'll be sharing that with the board. So it will be sometime in July.
Okay, and the amounts for 19 going forward, are those amounts charged to the employee or to the district?
Mr. Edwards?
Those are the amounts that will be, how do I explain it? So under Chapter 78, we need to have medical rates that the employees will then pay contributions off of. So no one will actually pay these rates, but their contributions will be based off of these rates. And these rates were determined by the actuary. So they're really for employee benefit contribution purposes only.
Okay, thank you.
Karen, go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'd just like to know, on items 15 through 21 that are with regards to the health insurance, the dental insurance, and the prescription, are all of those definitely equal or better to what we had before to be in compliance with our contracts?
Mr. Edwards?
In regards to the medical, Mrs. Cusinelli, I would tell you that I would hope so, because all we're doing is changing from prospectively insured to Horizon to self-insured with Horizon. So there's no
Change with that. What
Correct.
about with the
prescription. We do have an equal to or better than letter from Bollinger stating, and then we also met with the unions and provided them the documents so that they could review them to ensure that they also felt that they were being provided an equal to or better than plan.
Any significant changes?
No.
Okay, and same thing with the dental, that's still
Dental's the same,
That's the
so
same,
that's no
okay,
change.
thank you very much.
Is that it, Karen?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Any other board questions? Any public questions on operations? Seeing no one. Mayor? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even see him behind the camera. I didn't see you behind the camera.
Somehow I knew you were going to get up, Mr. Reed.
What's that?
Somehow I knew you were going to get up.
Well, we agree. Larry Reed, 475 Normandy Drive. I guess we don't have to sign in up here. I just wanted to ask some questions in general about the workers' comp. I did notice from the board secretary's report that we're still saving a lot of money compared to the budget on the workers' comp, which we were self-insured on. This year, we budgeted $2.1 million, and we've expended $295,000, $97,000 as of this last report, with an encumbrance of $1,580,000. So over the last 2 years, we've expensed $485,000, and we've encumbered, meaning set aside in reserves, $3.2 million. Now, my question is that $3.2 million that we've encumbered and set aside, is that in a checking account, more or less?
Mr. Edwards?
Yes, it's known as Workman's Compensation Reserve. It's shown on the balance sheet for both cash and on the liability side as a liability for future payable.
Okay, so let's say that continues to build up. Your actuary tells you each year how much to set aside. It's up to $3.2 million now. And if we keep setting aside, you know, $1.5 million, $1.6 million, at what point do we start not contributing so much to that fund?
Well, it's not up to $1 million. It's not up to the number you're talking about right now. It's actually at $1.2 million from last year because we've already begun paying down. You know, as you know, with workman's comp, you have to record the expense in the year that the injury occurs, even though the payment of those expenses may not occur for many years to come. So as you indicated previously, the amount that was reserved in the previous year, the 14-15 school year, has already been drawn down to $1.2 million. So it's not 3.2 million that's sitting in an account.
Okay, so you say it's drawn down. Was it expensed out?
Yes, those expenses occurred after the June 30th, 2015 school year ended, but the injuries happened prior to June 30th, 2015.
So you only show the expense for the current year?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. On the reinsurance, we pay a premium to for somebody to reinsure for a claim over $1 million. And this year, I forget the exact number, it's in the agenda, about 65,000 round numbers, is that correct?
I think it's 56, maybe 50, closer to 57,000.
Okay, transposition, 56. Is that down from last year, or is it about the same?
It's slightly up, but it's only slightly up due to an increase in payroll. The rate per dollar is the same.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Seeing no one else? Mary? Oh, I'm sorry, Karen?
I apologize. Could I just ask, I'm just seeing that there's a note that there was a change today, and I did not see. So through the chair, could I?
Go ahead, Karen.
Thank you. What is the change in number 17, where there's a note that says there was an updated 6/30/16 group prescription benefit services agreement?
Mr. Edwards?
Yeah, the changes in administrative content, Ms. Cusinelli, the contract that Bollinger CVS Caremark provided to us was reviewed by the attorney. He made comments and suggested changes to that contract. We got the contract back today with a couple of revisions, not as many as we had hoped. So in your administrative section of your agenda is that revised contract that they provided us today, with notes as well to tell you exactly what they changed and what they did not agree to change.
Thank you. Thanks, John.
It's all good. All right, Mary?
Ms. Cusinelli?
Okay, I need to abstain on number 17 because I did not review that change today. No on 32, no on number 58, and yes to the rest, please.
Ms. Cantillo?
I'm going to abstain on number 2, 5, no to 22, no to 32. Abstain on 52, 58, 59, and 60 because these were all revised since I reviewed the agenda. They've all been revised within the last day or so, and today is as late as today. So I can't really make an informed vote if the agenda changes while I'm on my way to the meeting. So I don't think that's right. Thank you, Mrs. Carey.
Mr. Barton?
I need to abstain number 5, page 63, number 16-08350, and yes to everything else.
Ms. Bacala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Lamella?
Yes. Human Resources Report?
Ms. Osborne, Human Resources?
The interim superintendent recommends that the board approve the following items listed 1 through 52.
Any board, I need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Barton?
Second.
Victoria, second. Board comments? Go ahead, Karen.
Some questions. With regards to number 1, the unaffiliated staff, couple things. Usually, we would have those contracts attached for the public to be able to review, and they were not. So could we maybe, for the sake of the public, and actually just to point out what the changes are on each, please?
Ms. Cusinelli, just if you'll recall, we had a legal opinion from Mr. Kalak when we were in negotiations that contracts with individuals and with unions should not be made public before they're voted on because they're technically still being negotiated, and you'd be violating the confidentiality of those contracts that are not yet approved. They are available for the public to Oprah or to see once they've been approved, but prior to that, it's, as Mr. Kalak indicated to us, couldn't get that one out, it's not appropriate to put those contracts, so we stopped doing that once we got that opinion from him.
I thought that was just for union negotiations for memorandum of...
That's all contracts dealing with things that the board has yet to approve. Because if, and in his opinion, if you recall, when you put those contracts out on the public agenda, and then the public comes to the microphone and starts negotiating those contracts and influencing the board on them, it's taking away the board's right to negotiate contracts.
Yes, but we represent the public, so they should be able to
Right, so
see
that's
them so
your-
that they can weigh in, and we are representing them.
But your due diligence as a board member, as an elected official, is to negotiate contracts, not to allow the public to do so for you. Then you're deferring your responsibility to the public at that point.
So we will no longer be seeing any contracts available to the
You-
public
you
until
will.
after, yes, some of them we will beforehand, but what I'm saying is we will no longer have attachments for the public to be able to review.
As per Mr. Kalak's opinion, while you were on negotiations, he
Yes,
told
I
us that
recalled it
that...
differently. I didn't recall it to be
He told
for
us that
every
was
individual.
not something that we should be doing, that we're
And
actually
was-
creating a problem for ourselves.
Did we have public notice at 10 days and 30 days for the business administrator's contract being reviewed tonight?
The 10-day and 30-day notice only applies to an extension or change of a contract. This is not an extension or a change. This is a new contract, so that does not apply.
But I thought it was a contract that was being changed, and it would
being-
fall under 18A 1111.
This contract is not being changed. It's a new contract.
Through the chair, may I ask Mr. Montenegro's opinion on that?
Repeat the question so we have it clear.
Sure. My question is, don't we have a requirement under 18A 1111 to advertise to the public that in the case of a superintendent, an assistant superintendent, a deputy superintendent, or a business administrator, whenever those contracts are going to be up, I thought we had an obligation at 30 days and 10 days under 18A 1111 to publicly advertise that they were going to be discussed and voted on.
That's also my recollection and subject to review and approval by the county superintendent.
So my concern is I wouldn't want us to be in a position when we're voting on something tonight that we really, is not appropriate for us to be voting on because it was not publicly advertised.
Well, we can certainly vote upon that subject to ratification after notification.
I'm sorry, I'm not clear, and I'm
Mr.
having a hard
Montenegro,
time hearing you.
There's actually a Q&A that's available on the New Jersey School Boards Association website that clearly states that a contract that is expiring on June 30th and a new contract that's being entered onto on July 1st is not a contract that falls under that provision.
Okay, well,
So it's not, there is no, and this is no different, Ms. Cusinelli, than what has been done in the years before with my contract or with the superintendent's contract. So in the years past, we've also done the same thing. We've not advertised it because it's not a change to an existing contract, it's a new contract.
With all due respect, Mr. Edwards, I'd rather listen to Mr. Montenegro's legal advice than yours, so I would like to defer to Mr. Montenegro on that, please.
I'd be happy to share it with you.
As an update with Mr. Edwards, a contract that expires at the end of the month.
I'm sorry, could I trouble you to bring that closer? I'm having a hard time hearing you. Thank you.
Mr. Edwards has highlighted an exception that occurs with regard to a contract expiring the end of June, beginning July 1, same terms, same personnel, would not, in that particular case, require the 30-day notification. So we can move forward this evening.
But there are a change of terms. That's my concern. It is not the same contract. There are changes in there, which I thought required then that we advertise.
I defer to Mr. Edwards if there were changes with regard to that contract.
Jim?
There's no changes to the contract, Nick, because the contract expires today. It's not a change to an existing contract. It's a new contract that we're talking about.
But isn't there a salary increase?
In a new contract, there is, yes. This is not, we're not changing the contract.
But aren't there other things, language that was changed?
It's, again, keep repeating myself. It's a new contract. It's not a change to an existing contract. There's a definite difference.
And what's the difference?
It's a new contract. I don't know
Okay.
how else I can say
Any contract is a new
that.
contract if you're changing the date.
No,
All right, thank you.
Mrs.
I
Cusinelli,
appreciate everyone's comments. I'm going to defer to Mr. Montenegro. In your professional opinion as board attorney, can we vote on this contract tonight?
You can vote on the contract tonight.
Thank you.
There's not a modification to an existing contract which would require the notification. It's a new contract, and it can have new terms and conditions.
Thank you.
Okay, my other question is with regards to number 4 with Mr. Gianella's contract. Question was, do we have a completed evaluation, Mr. Lamella? I know you had sent out some questions.
I did. I've sent out questions. They've come back. I've done a summative evaluation. I do not have that here, nor have I given it out.
Was that distributed to any board members?
It was not. I just put it together. I was busy at work, and I apologize. I was remiss, but I did do it.
And how many board members participated in it?
Whatever I got back from my written correspondence, some people had responded, they didn't feel they had enough information, and whatever everyone had sent back to me, and/or some people called me and gave me their input, and I took notes.
So of the 7 members of the board, how many, I know I told you I could not answer the questions because I
Correct.
didn't have enough information, in fairness.
I got yours, John. 5 total, ma'am.
Okay, but
5 total
Mr. Barton,
responded.
you responded also?
No, I don't have anything to do with the superintendent's contract.
Yeah.
Unfairly so.
Okay. And Mr. Montenegro, is it appropriate that we have administrative note of these contracts on the bottom, but in the case of Mr. Gianella's contract, is it appropriate that the conflicted board members had access to that beforehand and received the questions?
In terms of, what do you mean by having access to it?
And receive what questions?
The question, well, not so much the questions, but having the contract attached in our administrative notes, just for us to review. It was not put out to the public, but it was my understanding that conflicted board members should not have access to that. And I want to make sure that we're not jeopardizing anything legally because that was made available to everyone, including the conflicted board members.
Well, I appreciate your concern. The conflicted board members are not permitted to participate in discussion, negotiation, nor vote upon the superintendent's contract. Whether they had it in advance, I don't believe is material to moving forward.
Okay, so them getting the questions and the contract in advance does not pose a problem?
Does not pose a problem, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Lamella, if I may?
Sure.
I found the Q&A that I was talking about, New Jersey School Board Association's website. It's question number 14. Is a Board of Education subject to public notice and public hearing requirement pursuant to NJSA 18A 1111 for new contracts, including contracts that replace expired contracts for tenured or non-tenured employees? And the answer is no. NJASC 6A 23A 31C1 requires a public notice and public hearing only for renegotiations, extensions, amendments, or other alterations to the terms of existing contracts. The public notice and hearing requirement do not apply to new contracts, including contracts that replace expired contracts for existing superintendents, deputy assistant superintendents, or school business administrators, whether tenured or not tenured.
If you'll look, it also says, as opposed to alterations of existing contracts. So notice of public hearing are not required for new contracts, as opposed to alterations of existing contracts.
Right, so it's real clear, Mrs. Cusinelli, in 6A23A 3.1.
Okay, I wouldn't say it's real clear. But
Well, I
I'm
don't know how
deferring to
else you
Mr.
could-
Montenegro, Mr. Edwards.
I'll read that sentence again. Public notice and hearing requirements do not apply to new contracts, including contracts that replace expired contracts for existing superintendents, deputy or assistant superintendents, or school business administrators, whether tenured or not tenured.
Okay, again, we pay Mr. Montenegro a lot of money, so I would like to take his advice legally over yours, so thank you. Also,
Are we going to vote?
with the HR section, in number 35, which is 11-month guidance stipend, could I just get an explanation on that? Because in the teacher's contract, that stipend is listed as a flat $3,000. So I was not clear on how those numbers were derived, and that was not something that was in our HR minutes.
Ms. Osborne, you can answer that, but I believe it's 1/10 of their salary?
That's correct. The $3,000 is for the guidance coordinator stipend, and then the guidance summer hours are based on 1/10 of their salary. So I take their entire 10-month salary divided by 10, and then they get that additional amount for the 11-month.
So the $3,000 gets divided over their 10-month paycheck, and this is the prorated for a month of the summer for the 11 month?
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct, yes.
Okay, the language of that was confusing.
I apologize.
No, it is just the way it is. That's why it was confusing. Thank you. Also, in number 5, the summer and fall coaches, well, first of all, as I always like to ask, have all of them been cleared fingerprint background check and have county sub-certificates?
Yes, they do.
And, thank you. And in the summer strength and conditioning, I did notice that that amount was different than it's been in the past. What we've had for that amount in the past few years is $3,000, and I'm assuming that's a prorated number because the amount of time for the summer conditioning is probably a little more than half of what the regular season is, and I noticed that this amount was different on this agenda than has been in the past. Is that an oversight, or has something changed?
We were advised that that was the amount of the stipend when we put the list together, so that's what we put on the agenda.
Okay, but that's like half the amount of time as the regular season.
I can look into it for you if you'd like and get back to you, but I'm not really equipped at this point to answer the
Okay,
question.
thank you. And also, number 42, I think there were some, I'm sorry. What was the change to employment that occurred today? I didn't see a change that occurred. It says the updated 6/30/16. What changed?
Today, we changed Mr. Kleisler's original pay was 134 and change. That was incorrect. It was moved to 139, 152, because that was the approved money that he made.
Okay, so that's the only change, was the salary on number 9?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, I think that's it. Oh, wait, that's it, thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Any other board members?
I have a question, Mr. Lamella.
Please.
On number 14, are we being reimbursed by the town for the drivers' salaries for Summerfest, as we have in the past?
I believe we are, Mr. Edwards, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
President Lamella, a question. Number 46,
Okay.
part-time bus drivers, to approve part-time hourly bus drivers, and I see salaries listed for that. I'm confused by that.
Jim, do they prorate those based on the package that they have, or how do they come up with that number?
Yeah, it's the number of hours that they're going to work per day multiplied by 180 days, and then that amount is divided up over 20
I
days.
understand
Based
that.
on their tiers of
I-
their runs part-time?
Thank you.
I had
Sure.
that question on that one also,
all good.
that I meant, but do those, so if they work less, it's still based on an hourly rate? Is that just almost like a not-to-exceed amount?
No, they actually work more. They work that number of hours every day.
It's a set schedule?
Yes.
Are those employees, do they receive medical benefits also?
Only if they work more than 30 hours a week under the Affordable Care Act.
Thank you.
All right, under Human Resources, any public comment? Sir, please.
Okay, on the first item, the unaffiliated, I'll take the easy one first. For the superintendent, it just lists $682.69 a day. But since we don't have any idea what is in the contract, and I assume the number of days a year is negotiated, if you get paid for 365 days, it's $249,000. If you paid for 182 days, it's $124,000. So that's a pretty big range for the public to look at.
The statute says that my salary has to be figured on a 260-day year.
Thank you. It's easy when there's a statute. Okay, going to the business administrator. Last year, there was a contract on the agenda at this time of the year, the last meeting in June, and I printed it out and brought it with me. Obviously, since we don't know what the new contract is, my first question would be who negotiated on behalf of the public for that contract?
I spoke to Mr. Edwards concerning his evaluation and the contract and then recommended that to the board.
So the full board knows exactly what's in the contract?
The board has a copy of the contract.
Okay. All right, then my question will follow. Last year's contract for the business administrator, since, you know, we're not talking about a new contract, we're talking about the one that was published. It listed, it had a breakdown on 2 pages that were added to the contract, and it listed the salary and other stipends that were paid to the business administrator, who is, you know, a highly paid member of the school staff. He received an increase of 2%, which, you know, one of the reasons, and this is just general comment, one of the reasons we have this discussion about income inequality in the country is because when you say 2% for a $25,000 a year bus driver, that's $500. When you say 2% for a business administrator, that's $3,400. So this is how you get income inequality, because you just talk in terms of percentages. Well, we all got the same percentage raise, etc., but all of a sudden there's this huge disparity, and it's income inequality. This is exactly how it occurs. So in last year's contract, the business administrator's salary had a cash increase in salary of $34.31. And then, since he waived his health insurance, and again, he received an additional cash amount of $4,250, which is an increase in the amount of money he takes home for this past year. And it's paid out on the last day of the current year. So the business administrator's increase in take-home cash was $7,681. That's a great increase for a town where 3 out of the last 4 years, the seniors on Social Security did not get an increase, 0. So I just hope all the board members that are voting on these salary increases for the highly compensated people in the district are taking into account who's paying the taxes in town, what their average salary is. And I ask the board to keep that in mind as they're voting on these contracts. The other thing that's a general comment is when somebody has an opportunity to take their spouse's health care or their health care, I've called it for many years 2 lobsters. So you have 2 lobsters, you can't really eat 2. One has to be your primary health care insurance, and one is secondary. So the origin of the compensation for teachers, everybody working in the school district, was that rather than cost the school district an extra $10,000 to $28,000, you would give them a fee so that they wouldn't take that health insurance as a duplicate. They would stick with their primary. That was very effective when people had 2 health cares, and it cost them nothing to contribute, 0. A lot of the school employees paid for their health care in the past. Then when the state implemented what was called Chapter 78, there was a 4-year phase-in of contributions by the employees based on their salaries, so that somebody that was making $25,000 a year, as we know, a lot of bus drivers work for that because they get the $28,000 in family health care. Makes a lot of sense. So they would contribute a very small amount of their salary to that health care, whereas the highly compensated individuals in the district would have to pay a higher amount to get that health care. And as the detail was in last year's contract for the business administrator, In 2014-15 school year, Mr. Edwards, the business administrator, I should say, contributed $9,892 or $62 for that health care insurance. However, this past school year, since he was able to get health care from another source and was allowed to waive that health care, he received an extra $4,250 for waiving that health care. So the swing was he didn't pay $9,000 and he got a $4,000 bonus for the board that added up to this extra cash money that he received. So this year, you have another contract that you're going to be approving tonight, and I don't know why we're offering these healthcare buyouts to highly paid individuals. If any highly paid individual on the staff wants to pay $9,000 for secondary healthcare insurance, that's their right. But I think it's really egregious to the taxpayers in this town that we're giving somebody an additional $4,000 for waiving their health care when they already have a lobster at home already. They can eat very well with the health care they're providing because it's probably much better than what they're getting here. So my point to the board is, for highly compensated individuals in the district, waiving the health care should not be a fee that's paid to that individual anymore. If they want the double coverage, let them pay for it. And you know what? They won't opt for it because they're not going to pay the $9,000. You don't have to give them $4,000 to not pay $9,000.
That's it? This time is up?
So,
I apologize. That was 5 minutes, but if you can wrap up. We hear what you're saying.
If that's 5 minutes, I'm done. Thank
No.
you for my time.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Go ahead. I'm sorry, ma'am? Sure.
Good evening. I do have to say you're a sneaky bunch because you all know what we're here for, and nobody said anything to us, I guess hoping we wouldn't get up to speak. But we're here, so we're going to talk. My name is Janet Terry. I am at 3 Diane Drive, and I stand before you tonight as a resident of this town, the incoming Midstream's PTO president, and a mother of 2 Midstream students. The news that this board plans to move our beloved principal to a different elementary school has left me reeling. I am not the only one. Before you, you have a petition signed by more than half the population of Midstream's elementary school. I urge you to read the comments that these parents have made about Dr. Billen. Just to highlight a few, as a Midstream's parent, a change in principal would seriously disrupt the learning environment for the children as well as the staff. My 7th grade daughter still complains about the numerous principals she had during her 5 years at Midstream's. Everybody in the community loves Dr. Billen, even Jersey Mike's. They signed our petition as well. Dr. Billen is one of the nicest men I have ever had the pleasure of knowing. I work at Jersey Mike's on Route 88, and he always puts a smile on my face when he walks in for his usual sub. He needs to stay at Midstream's. It wouldn't be the same without him. Under Dr. Billen's reign as principal, Midstream's has earned 2 years in a row the Jersey Mike's Month of Giving, which is over $13,000 each year for our school, which is money that the board does not have to dip into their pocket to buy science equipment for our classrooms. Midstream's elementary school is more than a school. It is a family. Dr. Billen has a dedication to these students, and this family will not be the same without him. Our petition went up on Tuesday night and was circulated only through social media, text, and email. Parents have worked tirelessly the past few days to let you know that we will not stand idly by while you move a part of our family to a different school. We can't help but be protective of Dr. Billen. Under his leadership, we have a father's club, a mom's club, a liaison committee. I would argue we have one of the strongest, if not the strongest PTO in our town. We have a strong sense of community and it's successful students that adore him. Not many principals can be feared and loved at the same time. I can tell you that my children have a genuine fear of the principal's office, but are always excited to see their Dr. Billen, whether it be in the hallway, on the soccer field at the fall festival, or doing the whip and neigh at the school assembly. His enthusiasm for learning is contagious, and his love for midstreams is evident. I can't help but think of the students at VETS and how they will be affected by all of this. They already know Mrs. Kerr. She has a relationship with her students as well, with her faculty and with her families. So instead of just disrupting one school, we are now disrupting 2 schools and 2 sets of students. I find these moves to be completely irresponsible. This board owes our administrators and our children more. They deserve to be set up for success, and this board is not doing that with these moves. I'm aware that Mrs. Kerr is a vice principal now. I will hear the argument that Midstreams is a smaller school and therefore easier for a new principal to manage. I beg to differ. If Mrs. Kerr stays at VETS, she will have a vice principal. And if Mrs. Kerr stays at VETS, she's already familiar with the ins and outs of her school. What works for them, what doesn't? Moving Mrs. Kerr to Midstreams and Dr. Billen to VETS only puts 2 administrators in a position of starting completely from scratch. Not to mention, both of these moves will affect the morale and the climate of each school. Dr. Billen donates his time outside of school without earning any compensation for that. I mentioned that he is a big supporter of our Jersey Mike's fundraiser, which has proven to be very successful for us. 2 years in a row, we're number 6 in the country. It's a big deal. He also always volunteers to MC our gift auction. We have over 400 people in attendance for our gift auction, and we raise a lot of money for our school where we don't have to come to our board and ask them for money. If anything, I would venture to guess that Dr. Billen loses money on everything he does for Midstreams. When I first stood up here, I told you I was wearing several different hats. The mother hat is the one that has me standing before you tonight. I want a principal for my children that will care enough to discipline them, but who I know would do anything he could to protect them and nurture them. I am a working mother, and I had a really rough week at work this week. Left my children every morning, sleeping in their beds before dawn, and I worked late every night. And tonight I came here, and my children were crying. I foolishly thought they were crying for me. They weren't. They were crying for Dr. Billen. So when I left them tonight, I knelt down and I kissed their heads, and I told them, in the words of Atticus Finch, it was not time to worry. Please do not make me a liar to my children.
My name is Melissa Finaro. As a kindergarten teacher of 14 years, I've seen a lot. But knowing that what this board is doing to Midstreams Elementary School is something I've never seen before. As a parent of 3 young children, I would like to ask the board why they feel that moving Dr. Billen to VETS Middle can fix problems within the school.
I don't know if the board would be answering that, but can you just repeat the question?
How do you feel that by moving Dr. Billen to vets will fix problems within that school?
In the school you're talking about is vets?
Correct.
Well, first of all, let me say that these decisions or these recommendations to the board are not made in a vacuum. Even though I've been in Brick for a long time, I've been the interim superintendent for 5 months. Tried to get to know as many people as I can to see the strengths and weaknesses of all of our administrators and all of our buildings. When I look at these decisions, I look at it as the best for the whole district. I try to make those decisions as best for all of our children. Dr. Billen is a talented administrator. I think my personal belief in administration is that it is a good idea to give people fresh looks and fresh challenges. I think Dr. Billen is ready for that challenge. I think Ms. Kerr is ready for that challenge. I don't think Ms. Dreams is going to take a step back in any way with Ms. Kerr as the principal. That's why I'm making that recommendation that I think we can see 2 improvements, not just 1. I understand that Dr. Billen is a popular person and has done a great job. And I've told the board when I was speaking to the board that probably one of our most talented administrators that we have. But I, again, step back and look at the whole district and try to make a decision that's what's best for all of our children.
I just want to know, since when is it the principal's job to correct problems within another school? Isn't the job that of the board? You have Mr. Gianella, who makes over $600 a day, who can't fix this problem, then what are we paying him for?
Ma'am, I don't know what
By the
problem...
show of hands, can I ask from the board who has personally helped and addressed the administrator from vets to help him or her correct the inadequacies that you feel that they may have? As a boss, it's your obligation and duties to address issues that arise in the schools in our district, not Mr. Billens, Dr. Billens. By removing Dr. Billen from midstreams, how will that fix anything? It won't. If anything, it will undo all the hard work that Dr. Billen and his staff has worked so hard to accomplish, an amazing learning community for our children. And my final question, does it seem fair to punish over 500 students and make them suffer for another principal's inadequacies and possibly ruin their school as well? Not just Vets Elementary School? I'll answer this one for you. The answer is no, it's not fair.
Good evening, 126 Coolidge Drive, Bricktown, New Jersey. I come to you today as a parent and also as one of the founding members of the Midstreams Fathers Club. Hello, my name is William Sorrentino. I am an elementary school librarian for the Lakewood School District. During my career, I have worked under great principals who have done extraordinary things, and some who have simply done the best that they can. The difference between the two is reflected in the morale and work ethic of the teachers and parents involved in the school. An extraordinary principal creates the kind of atmosphere where extraordinary things can happen. Through his leadership, Dr. Billen, Through his leadership, Dr. Billen has created at Midstreams the kind of balance that all schools strive for. Dr. Billen manages to make every student feel special, like his very own priority, and his amazing leadership is evident through not only the mood of the teachers and the look of the school itself, but their enthusiastic participation in many of his extracurricular events, and there are many. The parents I've had the pleasure of meeting through school events all praise Dr. Billen's commitment to the school and providing an extraordinary experience for our children. The kind of experiences that have garnered Midstreams a reputation known throughout other school districts in our area, especially in my district, where a school like Midstreams and a leader like Dr. Billen seem positively mythical. In retail and industry, effective leaders are very often moved around to places where their talents are needed. However, our children's education is not an industry or retail matter. And I would urge you, members of the board, to consider this transfer carefully, as principals of Dr. Billen's caliber are rare. And although the Midstreams community will always support our school and do our part for our children, I believe Dr. Billen still has an extraordinary amount to offer here in his Midstreams community. Thank you.
Francine Bannock, 141 Coolidge Drive, Brick, New Jersey. I'm speaking on behalf of many voices at Midstreams Elementary School. My name is Francine Bannock, and I'm a parent at Midstreams Elementary of an elementary school student. Along with my husband, we are avid community volunteers at Midstreams, the Cub Scouts, Brick American Baseball League, and are venturing into football this year. We currently have 2 boys attending our district schools. First and foremost, I'm here this evening as an advocate for the children within our district. It's safe to say, unfortunately, that the Board of Ed has not had an even subpar reputation the past few years. Surrounded by corruption and litigation, the Board of Ed has had to play catch-up and has been forced with a more reactive versus proactive approach to its planning and staffing. Not quite an efficient way of doing business. With this in mind, the current administration changes at hand, I feel obligated as an informed parent to do my part. When I became a parent, the best and most frequent advice I was given was to be consistent. Why is that? Why is consistency when pertaining to children important? Well, it provides stability and structure. It defines roles and sets expectations, all of which are essential to parenting. Now extend that to our schools. You're moving multiple administrators from multiple schools. Do you think that will disrupt the educational environment at those schools? Don't answer. We know the answer. Absolutely. There is another solution. With all due respect, I do not support your recommendation, and I don't think 5 months in our district affords you the judgment that you're making that affects an entire district. How can we have a minimum of 3 schools I know of start completely from scratch with new leaders at the helm? How does that make the best sense? I can't speak for the other schools, but I can speak for Midstreams. I've worked for and beside Dr. Billen on multiple projects. I've served on the PTO board, and I'm the current liaison committee chairperson, a group that was originated 4 years ago with Dr. Billen to serve as a liaison to our families at Midstreams, focus on increasing parent involvement and how it enriches the education of that our children receive. Programs such as monthly meet and greets, welcoming an open discussion with the principal and parents to keep informed and have a voice, a father's club, a mother's club, a focus on literacy like no other, and the list goes on. Our test scores remain at or above state standards. Can we say that across the board in the district? He has helped to create a community that is thriving. So while I can appreciate your interest in taking an accomplished principal in this district and moving him to serve another school as a business decision, I'm uncertain that you are considering the human aspect of this decision. I'm uncertain you're considering the children. There are children at the receiving end that are left affected, a community that we all have strived so hard to achieve. With plans in motion, projects in the pike, to take the leader of our school out of the equation is such a great loss. It doesn't make the best sense. Use our school as an example. Do your diligence. Research what's working over there and how you can implement that at another school. Do not take our sense of consistency and stability away from our children. We've worked too hard for this. It's not broken. It doesn't need to be fixed at Midstreams. If vets is, focus on vets. Leave Midstreams out of the equation. Stop playing chess with the administration. Why is Midstreams slated to get another psychologist anyway? Is there a need? Are we just keeping Caldez at a distance from a person seeking litigation from him? What does that mean for Mrs. Caputo? Stop being reactive. Instead, I implore you to take a step back and not vote on this aspect this evening. I implore you to find an alternate solution to moving Dr. Billen. On your Board of Ed goals for this past year, you lead with the words, traditions, inspiration, and excellence. What traditions are there to be had if the school continues to keep getting disrupted? Let this be the first step in sending your brick families a clear message that you hear us and that our opinions matter. Inspire us and our children and provide the excellence that we deserve. Lead by example, but not by making another hasty decision. Please. Our district cannot risk losing Dr. Billen, and I'm uncertain if this change happens, it won't secure his longevity with us. I mean, what message are we sending if we do our jobs real well and we eventually get everything we're building ripped out from way for us and have to start all over again somewhere else? I'd be frustrated for sure. Please, please reconsider this decision. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chatham Corder. I'm probably the person you would least expect to be speaking tonight. And also, I did not expect to be speaking, so if I'm jumbled, have mercy because I'm only 10. So, I happen to have opened a book club at Midstreams. And Dr. Billen has encouraged me, encouraged my ideas, done everything possible to make me feel confident and special and worth worrying and thinking about. So please do not move him to a different school because I need everyone at Midstreams to feel this way. And if I understand that the other school may need a little bit of help, but use Dr. Billen as an example. Don't take him away from us. We've worked too hard to make our students this great. Also, Dr. Billen has given me the opportunity to come back next year after school to run the book club. And of course, I accepted it because I was super excited about that. And so he made me feel like I could do anything. I can do whatever I set my mind to. And everyone, I think, needs to feel that way. So please, please reconsider moving him. I have friends at Midstreams, and I think they deserve to feel the way that I feel. Thank you.
I don't know how I'm going to follow that. So I'm Ashley Cosgrove, 88 Avis Drive, and the first part I'm going to read is from Kimberly McCafferty. She couldn't be here tonight, so this is a letter. Thank you for letting me speak tonight on Dr. Billen's behalf. I'm the mom of a young boy at Midstreams and a former educator who served under 3 different principals. I feel in my tenure as a teacher, I had the opportunity to witness what makes a good principal. It takes patience and lots of it. Creativity, the ability to foster relationships, and extreme attention to detail, the ability to inspire loyalty amongst staff, parents, and students. I have witnessed all of these qualities and abilities in Dr. Billen. In his 4 years of being principal at Midstreams, Dr. Billen has taken on a rather large population and managed to create a family. Through his programs, enthusiasm, and one-on-one interactions with students, parents, and staff, he has created a culture of positivity and support, a caring environment where every student feels safe and able to reach their fullest potential. 3 years ago, my son, who has mild autism, was anxious about starting at a new school, his 3rd in almost as many years. I called the school, and without hesitating, Dr. Billen offered to give us a private tour so my son would feel comfortable asking any questions he wanted to ask. I have heard countless stories of like kindnesses extended to students over the last several years. We are a family. This family isn't ready to say goodbye yet to one of its own. Please give us a little more time together. Thank you. For myself, I have a 1st grader. He'll be going into 2nd grade. And last night we were on vacation in Pennsylvania, and I got the email, and I made the mistake of reading it out loud to my husband, and my son was there. And he was like, "Oh my gosh, who's going to give me a high five every day when I see him?" So it's really a sad thought to think that the disappointing decision of this is going to affect my son and my family. So I would beg you to reconsider, because it is not a vote or decision that me or anyone in my household can support.
Thank you.
If I can just say one word, so close. And I appreciate everybody's passion for
Okay.
this, and I appreciate the work that Dr. Billen has done and how you feel about it. I'm really disappointed that you decided to, some people have decided to personally attack an administrator who's sitting in the audience and being promoted. That's my personal feeling. You didn't have to go there, and I'm embarrassed for that administrator, and I apologize, Ms. Kerr. Mr. Lamella?
Thank you. Just give 1 second, sir. I'm new to the whole Board of Education thing, but I happen to be a father and sit up here with many good people, some of whom will give me advice prior to even getting here. And I lived long enough with my wife to know that when some of you look at me and give me that eye, I perhaps want to rethink my decisions. I don't know how to do this, so help me who's up here and has had experience. I would like to make a motion at this time. I don't want to hear clapping or screaming because there's no definite decision. I would just like to make a motion to table number 51, number 1, so we can take a closer look at this.
I second.
I am a first. Stephanie is the second. Any?
No discussion on
Yes, can I make a board comment? Are we asking for board comment at this point?
No,
Motion?
this is just,
On the motion?
do we discuss the motion?
You made the motion.
I'd like to know if there's anything in Dr. Billen's contract that precludes him from seeking employment outside of the district?
No.
And so he is free at any time that he would like to go on to pursue his own personal dreams to become a superintendent or any other type of administrator to go outside of the district and do that. Is that true?
Like any employee in the district.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure that was, a standard thing in our district.
It's standard, I am in education, and it's standard. Anybody has the right at any time to look.
And he could exercise that right at any time.
Mr. President, if I may.
Yes.
There's a correction. When there is a motion to table, it requires a second, but there is no debate.
No, there's no debate, we just vote.
I'm sorry.
There's a motion pending, sir.
Mr. Lamella?
Yes. Who's Mr. Lamella? I made the motion to table 51, number 1, and it was seconded by Stephanie.
Right, so I think there needs to be an amendment to the motion because there's another motion on the agenda which has someone being appointed to the position. So if you're tabling item number 1, then you would also have to table that motion as well because you can't have two principals serving in the same position.
I didn't think that far ahead.
Okay.
Do I?
Yeah.
I do it double table?
Well, why don't we first table the first one, and then we could table the second one?
Right.
Okay.
I would think that would be the proper way to do it.
Okay, so let's vote on the first motion I made.
Ms. Cusinelli?
I'm sorry, that's to just table number 51.
Number
Number
1.
one.
Number 51,
Just
number
number
1.
one.
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Cantillo?
51, just number 1, Dr. Billing, we're tabling it for
I
now.
have to abstain because I have a niece that works in midstreams, and I can't vote at all on Dr. Billen. I
Okay.
can't, I'm
Yeah, she's
sorry, I wish I
conflicted.
could, but I can't by law.
Okay.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Bacala?
No.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Lamella?
Yes,
Motion is approved.
thank you.
Now you
Now
got
do I
to
do a second one?
Yes.
What numbers is that one?
I
I'm
think
sorry, everyone, I'm learning. I'm paging.
Let me get it for you.
What is that, teacher transfer or?
Ma'am?
Yes. Well, that's what I heard, and I think that's what Ms. Kerr heard, certainly.
All right, it's all right. Let's just let us move forward. I just want to get through this. I know certain people heard different things. Please,
You've got to move to table the other.
which one am I
42,
on?
number 12.
I would also make a motion to table number 42, number 12.
Second.
Second is Stephanie. Mary?
Wait, excuse me,
I'm sorry.
number 42?
Yes, number 12, and that's the
Appointment of Ms. Kerr
appointment of
to
Ms. Kerr to,
Midstreams.
from, yeah.
Okay.
Cusinelli?
Yes.
Ms. Cantillo?
I have to abstain on that also for midstreams.
Mr. Barton?
Am I allowed to say anything? I mean, I looked at this as...
Not on a table
Motion
motion.
to table, it's not non-debatable.
Yes.
Ms. Bacala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Mr. White?
No.
Mr. Lamella?
Yes,
Motion adopted, 5-1.
that motion is adopted. Ma'am?
Can I just ask for this, those who are not familiar, when you're tabling this motion, what does that mean?
That means the transfer is not taken. We'll look at it again, and it may come up at another board meeting, but we'll have
It could be.
if something is going to happen, right?
There's no affirmative
Right.
action.
Correct, nothing.
Exactly.
Are we permitted to still speak on behalf of
Sure.
Mrs. Sullivan for this?
For tonight?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Hold on, I just want to make sure I'm doing the right protocol. You've been so patient, you waved like 3 times, you're going to need shoulder surgery. I'm sorry, Mr. Attorney, Sharon, I know you've sat up here, am I following proper protocol? Do we move forward now and people can still speak? Nick, or am I good now after these motions?
Yes, you are. The motions to table have been granted, 5-1. No action on those 2 matters will go forward. However, the public session is still open.
You're up, sir.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Appreciate letting me speak tonight, and thank you for tabling that. That's what I was going to ask you to do. I just want to make a few points. How many supporters from Veterans Elementary School are here tonight? Would you clap your hands? Well, I think that says a lot right there. How many supporters are here from Midstreams, the Jazzy Jaguars, for Dr. Billen? My point is, we care so much about our principal. My name is John Dunn, 1 Mid Park Drive. I'm a resident, I'm a taxpayer. I have 2 children that attended Midstream School. One just graduated and one is still there. The education that they are receiving is outstanding, and I thank you for your support of all the schools. I'm also a proud member of the Fathers Club, the best Fathers Club in Bricktown. Am I right? We have done so many projects in the school, bookcases, sheds for storage, landscaping, coming into the school and reading to the kids. And you know where all those ideas originated from? Dr. Billen bringing us all together. I was a founding member. I've been with him for 5 years. He's an outstanding leader. He cares about our kids, and we care about him, and we do not want to see him go to another school. Am I right? Let's talk about the teachers. I've spent my whole life in public service, a career firefighter, military veteran. I know leadership. I know people that care about people, and we all know people that fake it. Dr. Billen cares about everyone. He cares about our children. He cares about his staff. He cares about the parents. We have come together as a family. Can you see this out here? Am I right? A family, the Midstreams family. And we came to fight for our principal to stay in our school. And I heard a couple of things tonight that I just want to say again because I think they're important. If it's not broken, don't fix it. We're good to go at Midstreams. It can be an example for every school in the district. And not only are we good to go, this young lady, is that a hard act to follow right here? That says it all. All the children in the audience that would like to see Dr. Billen stay, will you please stand up? How about that? Should he stay? Thumbs up? 291 signatures, 200 signatures in one day. I think that's a big impact. And I would just like to say, we all want what is best for our children, and Dr. Billen staying at Midstreams and continuing to do the great work that he is doing and providing the great leadership that he is providing is the best thing for our children moving forward. And we would, as a whole, as a family of Midstreams, Thank you for tabling it, and we strongly urge you to make the decision to keep Dr. Billen in our school. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Barbara Riley, I'm a fourth grade teacher at Midstream School, and I've taught in the district for 29 years. So I've had numerous administrators in that time. And I've also attended many board meetings, but this is the first time I'm actually addressing the board because I feel so passionate about Dr. Billen. He's like no one else I've ever met as an administrator. He's passionate, he's dedicated, he's committed to bring a school community together. He's tough but fair, and he asks nothing more of his teachers, parents, and the children and the entire school community that he wouldn't do himself. He is a no-nonsense principal with high standards, and at the same time, he's so compassionate and caring. He has brought our school together, made it warm and inviting to the parents. He started, as people mentioned, the Father's Club, the Mom's Club. He put together father-daughter dances, mother-son bowling. I could stand here for an hour after hour listing all Dr. Billen's accolades. The most important point, though, that I would like to get across is he's not only increased our test scores, as somebody mentioned, but he's instilled confidence in every child that walks in the door, making them believe that they can do it and raising the bar more and more each year. Children need continuity at a young age, and this is someone who they look up to each and every day. They not only want to emulate him, but they want to please him in any way every day. Since he has been principal of Midstreams, children come to school saying to me or other teachers, "Can I do extra credit?" Or, "Did I really do a great job on that project? Can you please invite Dr. Billen in? I want to show him." Never had that happened with any other principal in my 29 years of teaching. I truly wish that you take this into account and realize where he is really needed at Midstream School. Thank you, and please let Dr. Billen stay. Thank you.
Oops.
Jesus Christ. I don't want to adjourn. Take over.
I did too.
There you go. Hi, Sandra Caetano, 171 Taft Avenue, Brick, New Jersey. My family just moved into district about 2 years ago, and my daughters would not have had the most amazing experience had it not been for Dr. Billen. My daughters, not wanting to leave their previous school, were upset and nervous to start Midstreams. They were happy at the school that they were at, but my husband and I felt that they needed more. My husband and I did plenty of research on Midstreams. We spoke to every mom and dad that we knew that had children at Midstreams. We toured the building. We showed up unexpectedly at outdoor school functions. We observed how the parents, teachers, principal, and students connected. I can tell you from what I observed, Dr. Billen was a great principal, and Midstreams was definitely the school for my children. Dr. Billen was out on the field playing soccer with the kids. He was out on the dance floor dancing with the kids. He was refereeing kickball games, and he also was reading stories to the children. He was doing all this and so much more, not even knowing that he was being observed. After hearing and seeing firsthand how he interacted with the students, my husband and I decided it was time to pull our kids out of private school. Dr. Billen met with my daughters a few days before school started. Needless to say that on the first day of school, Dr. Billen welcomed them with open arms and greeted them by their first name after only meeting them once. My girls came home happy and excited. The second week of school was even better. They told me how Dr. Billen would stop them in the hallway and start up simple conversations with them. Simple as, "Hey, how are you? Everything okay? Did you watch the football game last night?" And so on. Due to Dr. Billen's wonderful personality, my kids were so happy to be at Midstreams. But being that Dr. Billen is so focused on literacy, the only thing they were not happy about was reading logs that had to be completed every night. But once they found out Dr. Billen reviewed each and every one of them, they took it upon themselves to read extra minutes every night because they wanted to make him proud.
Being that I was new to Midstreams, I pretty much knew nobody. A letter came home stating Dr. Billen formed a Moms Club. Meetings were set for every month. The first meeting was set to start in a few weeks. I knew this was something I wanted to attend. Needless to say, Dr. Billen was at the 6 o'clock meeting. It was pretty much an open forum, and Dr. Billen took plenty of notes and listened to every single mom that voiced concern or made suggestions. Me being new to the school, I had plenty of questions, and never once did Dr. Billen shut me down or not answer any of them. He even followed up within a day or two to further answer some of the questions that I had. Another club that Dr. Billen formed was the Fathers Club, as you heard before. They too meet once a month. My husband has always been supportive of our daughter's old school, but one thing he was not fond of was volunteering his time. He did not want to take time off of work to volunteer. He volunteered once or twice, but just did not enjoy it. Well, needless to say, my husband has never been so involved as he is at Midstreams, and that is due to Dr. Billen starting the Fathers Club. He and a bunch of other dads, along with Dr. Billen, have done so much for the school. Like they said before, whether it was donations or making food for school events, building bookshelves for the library, providing security for school functions, hosting airplane night, building the garden, and so on and so forth. Those are just to name a few. Dr. Billen takes volunteering to a whole new level. He is always coming up with a way to get parents involved. Being that he's such a remarkable principal and I love what he does for the school, I volunteer all year long. I love the warm welcome I receive from Dr. Billen and the staff. If you want to be involved in Midstreams, Dr. Billen will find a way to get you involved. Dr. Billen is like no other principal I have met, and I have met quite a few. My daughter speaks so highly about him that at times they consider him to be a famous celebrity. Believe me, it's true. He eats lunch with groups of children all the time. Let's face it. How many of you really want to eat with a bunch of kids that can be loud and super excited they finally get 30 minutes to themselves without having to do any schoolwork? He is caring, kind, and considerate of everyone's wants and needs, teachers, students, staff, and parents included. As you can see from the crowd that has formed here, we are asking that you keep Dr. Billen in his current position. He adds a critical element in instilling strong values, ethics, and academics within the children. Please show us and the Midstreams community that you really care about the children and leave Dr. Billen to continue his work at Midstream School. Thank you.
Okay, let me just say this. I'm just going to revise this because I know you've all heard the same thing. I'm not going to reiterate it over and over and over again. We all love Dr. Billen, his parent. So I just came here tonight, obviously, to plead with you in reference to that, and talk about how wonderful Dr. Billen is and what a positive impact and great morale he's had in our school. And actually, when I moved to Brick, it was extremely important for my husband and I to have our children in that school based on the wonderful things that we heard. And when we bought another house, we made sure it was in the Midstreams district so that our children could continue there. Now, in this matter, I'm coming from both a parent and working in the school. I do work in the school. And I just would like to say that I've worked with Mrs. Kerr, and I think she's a wonderful person. And I thought she did a wonderful job as a vice principal. So I feel like we are not, I didn't hear any bashing in reference to you, and that's why I was confused at what just transpired up here. But I just wanted to say that you are a wonderful person. I had a great year with you last year, although I won't be with you next year, transferred again. But yeah, that third time in 3 years. Anyway, so, but coming from a teacher's perspective as well as a parent, I work and teach and nurture many children every day of the year. They become a big part of my life as if they were my own kids. I care deeply about these children, and as an outsider, I can understand that it may be difficult to understand on that level. That relationship and bond that we form with all of those children is special and irreplaceable. Anyone can only hope that their children have that feeling of security and emotional stability when they send their kids off to school. I feel 100% confident and positive every day that my children are in great hands under Dr. Billen's leadership. He knows our children individually and knows what they need individually to succeed and flourish. So in closing, I just feel that it would be senseless and irresponsible to remove a principal who has this bond with hundreds of students and parents alike and put him in another school. Mrs. Kerr, as I've stated, has done a wonderful job as the vice principal at Vets Elementary, and I'm not really sure why she's not being moved up to principal there. I mean, she has a great rapport with all the students and staff there, and I think she'd do a wonderful job there. I just think it makes no sense to switch schools and disrupt hundreds and hundreds of students' lives. So I respectfully request that you strongly consider this decision and keep Dr. Billen where he belongs at Midstream School. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Terry Malone Carino. I am a recently retired speech and language therapist from our district. I've spent 27 and a half years in our district, and the last 4 of which I had the great fortune of working under Dr. Billen. I just want to read just a couple of statements that I would like to share about Dr. Billen. Dr. Billen has given the students, parents, staff, and community of Midstream School academic, social, emotional support. Every student he knows by name individually. Every student feels special in our school. The thing that strikes me about John, it really struck me when Superstorm Sandy hit. He galvanized our staff together to help out the families and the staff who had massive damage to their homes. And that just very much struck me about how much love and care he gives every day at Midstream School. It's not all about what goes on in the building, it's also what goes out of the building. It's important that the children and the staff know that, you know, they're not just coming to school to do a job or to learn, but that they're cared for with love and respect in their own personal lives. And he's shown that day after day at our school. I would just like to ask you to please consider keeping Dr. Billen at our school. He is probably the best thing that's happened for our students, and I'm just very, very blessed to have worked under him. Please keep him at our school. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wish I had the gift of gab of some of you folks. I don't usually. I usually don't get up here to comment on some of these things, but I will tonight because I have the perspective of a former board member, and I can see the dilemma that's going on. You have parents and students that have bonded with the principal, and it's a wonderful thing, and then you have a board that has to try and find outstanding leaders that are principals to move them up through the school system and hopefully become a superintendent that inspires the whole district. So I can see the dilemma that's going on here, and it's a difficult one. From Dr. Billen's point of view, your career advancement is you move up the ladder, get more money if you're a middle school or a high school administrator. I know he's in elementary school now, but there is, if you look at the contract, when they become principal at a middle school and a high school, they receive more money. Okay, I understand that. So, I understand that. So, my own dilemma is why he would be moved from a elementary school to another elementary school. So, you know, from my perspective, maybe a compromise was if he went to a middle school where your children, once they're going to graduate from Midstreams, they might see him again, and then they might see him again in high school, and then they might see him again as a superintendent. But it's all too often that if people are really talented as an elementary school principal, they're going to have great opportunities in other school districts. Yes, they do have the ability to leave. Nothing holds them here. And we've seen it happen in the past in this district. I don't have all the background that some of you do, but talented people have left, gone to other school districts, and we missed out on them as superintendents here in the district. So there is a dilemma there. It's tough on the board, and I really appreciate people coming out. Being on the board for 3.5 years, this is like the only time you get a good turnout, where people are really enthusiastic about administrators, their kids, the schools, the whole participation. I wish it happened at every meeting, but usually it's boring stuff with me talking about financial matters. So just keep in mind that the school board and the superintendent have to try and figure out how to establish a great leadership team, because without excellent administrators at all levels, you don't have a great school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. See,
Can I speak to what he said real quick? With all due respect,
Absolutely.
I'm not sure of his name, but part of the reason why many of the community doesn't show up or hadn't in prior years is because of the unfortunate arrogance of prior board members on the Board of Education. And I think some things might speak for themselves in the recent media as to why some people might not have been so welcomed or comfortable to come to the meetings to speak. You know, is the message that if you have a mediocre principal, I don't know, Leans Mill, other school, that you have a principal that serves for umpteen years untouched? Is that the message we want to send? Why not learn from Midstreams? Why not have you guys come and say, hey, what's working? What's a liaison committee? How can we bring that to our other schools? Fathers Club, it's brilliant. Do you know the statistics surrounding fathers' involvement in their children's education? Do you know that? Do you know what it takes to raise children? Bring these dads in these schools. Get them in vets. Get them in the middle school. Get them in the high school. Get them involved. They should be. They should all have fathers clubs. You should learn from our school, not dissect it. By all means, this man should have a fabulous career path, and we will not stand in his way. We will bid him farewell and cry our eyeballs out when the time comes. But to do it in haste, because you're forced to, because you have to shuffle right now, and we all know you have to shuffle, that's not the time to do this, unfortunately. And I know you guys want the best of what's for our district. Use us as an example. Come over there and ask some of us. Talk to these teachers. Lead by example, right? Lead by example. I mean, it's a business solution. I'm in corporate America. I'm back at work recently. This is what they do. You learn. You look at successful business plans. You know, your Target and your corporate America, people emulate what's working. Let's learn from corporate America. Learn from a school that's thriving. That's your job, not to disrupt what's in place. While all due respect,
ma'am,
it is not what you were insinuating what was happening, and I appreciate your opinion, but it's not the case.
ma'am, just address us, please, the board. It's all
I'm
good.
sorry, he was addressing some of the
It's all
other
right.
people before.
Thank you.
So, I'm just,
It's all good.
Hi, Kim Muller, 331 Madison Court. I made a mistake. I should have went after curriculum and instruction. I'm going to go back to, I support the grant mentioned earlier pertaining to students and IEPs, and I'm happy to see that the board is interested in how our kids with IEPs will transition into secondary education, meaningful employment, and independent living, because that's the goal of special ed. But that success doesn't just happen upon attaining age 21. It starts with a vision and a goal that begins when your child is born, in early intervention, preschool, kindergarten, and elementary. It is the duty of BRIC educators and the child study team to not simply tolerate students with disabilities, in my case Down syndrome, but to actually acknowledge them and accept them in their least restrictive environment, as the law states. BRIC's child study team denies our children seats in typical classrooms, forcing parents to seek legal counsel. And in the instances they can afford it and win, the family must endure it over again in the following years. I shouldn't have to spend between $8,000 and $15,000 to sue the board so that my 3-year-old can be placed in the integrated preschool class when New Jersey state and federal law states it. Research demonstrates unequivocally children with Down syndrome excel when educated alongside their typically developing peers. There are students with Down syndrome in this district who have been included in general ed since the beginning. What happened? Why is it so hard for us now? This afternoon, I emailed all of you my personal request for assistance. So I'm here now asking for all parents of a child with an IEP, and specifically those with children who have Down syndrome. Look into the child study team members and special services and why they ignore all of the research and insist on segregating kids from their typical peers. Secondly, why aren't the members of the child study team held accountable for their actions during IEP meetings, specifically when they refuse to follow the laws created to protect our children? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Tina Farrell, 531 Robin Hood Road. I had no plans to speak. My husband was supposed to speak, but he went out. So there he is. He's a founding Fathers Club member and is very passionate about Dr. Billen. I'm a therapist by trade in the county, and I really passionately feel that children make attachments, and it's important to support these attachments. They need continuity in both schools. It's important to support the attachments. We have a male leader. That's an important thing to encourage. I'm sure, and now it looks like on the board, possibly, I don't know how it all worked out, but maybe Mr. Blessing was going into the other school, and then they'd have a male leader. It seems like we could just keep it like that. It would meet their needs. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, seeing no one else come forward, thank you, everyone. Excuse me, sir, please come up.
John Sluka, 950 Sylvia Court. I don't know Dr. Billings, and I don't know Mrs. Kerr, and I probably don't know all our principals, or probably any of them. But in reality, I'm sure we have quite a few that are pretty good, and I don't want to stand in people's way. But in fact, even in business for 40 years, I realize that change is great, but change for change's sake stinks. And if that's the reason you're doing it, just to change people around, it's not the way to go. And if Dr. Billings is that good, maybe the next change you make is to move him up, not just across. So that's the one area. And the one thing, the reason I was coming up at this point, I'm going to come up later when it's normal group things, but my problem was the notification of this meeting of what was going to be done. You said, well, we can't notify the people on the raises or whatever these people are getting under this new contract method. Yes, state law might say that we don't have to, but let's be a more open society here in Brick so we get notified ahead of time when things are being changed into a new contract or things like that, not just last minute. I mean, I heard basically what was going to be done at this meeting like 2 days ago myself, and I know somebody said something about one of the other schools aren't here because it's not that they don't care. They may not have realized what was going to be done at this meeting either. I mean, a lot of that stuff doesn't happen. I mean, I go to enough of these meetings that I usually have an idea what's going on, and usually don't get up too often, maybe once every 2 years. And I understand when Mr. Reed was correct in what he's saying. You don't want to hold somebody back, but at the same time, you shouldn't make a change without parent taxpayer involvement. And, and I'm sure none of these people want to stand in Dr. Billings' way or in Mrs. Kerr's way because, hey, the decision might be that she's going to that school because the assistant principal could help her in her new position. Maybe that's a great idea, but you didn't involve the people, and they're the taxpayers, and that's what needs to be done. So my suggestion for the future, it can't be done this year because you're not going to be able to notify people 10 days ahead of time what's going to be done at a meeting, but maybe for next year to keep it a little more open, we're going to talk about the new contracts of the people, new, it's really an extension, or, and stuff like that. So that would be my suggestion for the future, and good luck to you all today. Whatever the decision is of the board, I'm glad I'm not making a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, seeing no one else come forward.
Ms. Cusinelli?
In number 1, no to number 2, yes to the rest. Number 42, no. And, I'm sorry, number 1, no to number 2, yes to the rest. Number 42, no to number 8, yes to the rest. And I'm abstaining on number 52 because that was put up today, so I did not see it.
Ms. Cantillo?
Okay, I have to, number 1, item number 2, no. Item number 4, I have to abstain due to a conflict. Number 4 was revised, so no. Number 9 was revised, so no. 14, yes. 17, no, it was revised. Same thing with 18. Number 28, yes. Number 35 was revised. Number 40 was revised, so no to those. Number 42, yes. Number 51, yes. And number 52 was revised. All the others, I vote yes on, with the exceptions of those.
Mr. Barton?
Number 1, again, I have to say that it's not really fair. Just because my wife teaches in the district, I'm not allowed to have any part in a superintendent's evaluations or contracts. So I have to abstain, and I protest that, but the superintendent's in charge of everything that I do, and I'm accountable for everything that I do because of that. And it's just, to me, it doesn't sit right, but that's what it is. So number 1, part 4, abstain. Number 4, employee number 28, abstain, and yes to everything else.
Ms. Pacala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes to number 42, except number 12 and 42. That would be, number 12 would be no, and yes to everything else.
Number 12.
Mr. Lamella?
Yes.
Mr. Lamella, can I
Ma'am,
make a comment?
please.
Okay. I'd like to thank all the retirees for their service to our district tonight. I wish all of you good luck on your future endeavors. I'd like to again wish a hearty good luck to Jen Joseph on her new position. She will be sorely missed here in Brick, and her accomplishments achieved at Brick Memorial were admired by everyone. I'm sure you will continue your accomplishments and even more at Neptune, and how lucky they are to have you. I'd like to again congratulate Mrs. Weiner for being voted the County Teacher of the Year. And Miss Lane, I'd like to wish you good luck in Washington. We have our teacher from Lake Riviera that is going on an internship and will be studying with NASA. Near and dear to my heart, Mr. Philippone, Mr. Brick High School. You created an atmosphere of spirit, pride, and most of all, family. For everyone who entered your building, we all felt the same. There's so much I will miss when you're no longer the principal at Brick High School, not the least of which is your graduation speeches. Everyone that knows you knows that every year you tell the graduating class that they are the best you've ever had the pleasure of supervising. Funny thing, to all of us that know you and hear it every year, we know that you're saying it from your heart, and you mean it. You are the heart of Brick High School, and I will always feel that way about you. I know you will endear everyone around you in your new position, and I wish you good luck in that as well. I commend you on the passing of the torch to your successor. Mr. Kleisler, oh, the place you are going. The students of Brick High School are so fortunate to have you as their new principal. And I know for many years now, from now, someone will be sitting right here in my seat and thanking you for being the heart of Brick High School, as I just did Mr. Philippine. For us that know you, you have been the blood of Brick High School for a long time now. I believe teaching and education is a calling, and you have certainly fulfilled your calling. When looking back at some of the students lucky enough to have had you and had the opportunity of your mentorship, you can certainly be proud of your influence and impression you left upon them. You are greatly admired and respected by all. You embody leadership through humility, integrity, and character. I am so excited to see what is coming up and what your accomplishments will be at Brick High School as well. I wish you the best of luck and congratulations.
All right, a little more left. Mr. Gillanella, will you introduce policies?
Sure. The superintendent recommends policies number 1 and 2. 1 is for first readings, number 2 is a revision.
Motion?
Second.
Who made the motion?
I
Made it
did.
first. Thank you. Karen, then Victoria, or Stephanie?
Me.
Great, I'm on a roll. Karen. Sharon, then Karen.
Sharon first or myself? Or for the
Karen
questions?
first.
I'm sorry, for
Karen
questions,
first,
I have a
then
question.
Sharon.
No, you first. She
Okay, thank
seconded.
you.
And then for questions, you can go first.
Okay, through the chair, I just had a question regarding policy number 6172. There was a discrepancy on one part between what we discussed in committee versus what's on the agenda, so I'm not sure what's accurate. I did point it out to Mr. Gianella.
Yeah, Mrs. Cusinelli did point that out right before the meeting. My suggestion, and we can do one of two things. We can table it. This is a first reading. I could review that with the attorney if we pass it on first reading and make the changes for second reading. That would be a suggestion.
Whatever the attorney recommends.
We can do that. As long as the change is not material, we can move on and modify it at the second reading.
Okay.
If it's material, after I review it with the attorney, we can put it back for the first reading.
First reading.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
I also have a question about the policies. Concerning 6173 on home instruction, I'd like this policy to be tabled for further consideration. I have a question as to whether it's in compliance, specifically Section C, under temporary or chronic health conditions. It says that home instruction that exceeds 30 days requires an IEP team meeting and review of the student's IEP, whereas the statute actually states any change in placement in IEP has to be reviewed within 10 days. So I'd like that to be taken off the table at this point until it can be corrected.
Are you making a motion to table?
Yes, please.
Need a second and vote.
I'll
Ne-
second.
Victoria first, Stephanie second. We need a vote. Mary?
Ms. Cusinelli?
Yes.
Ms. Cantillo?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Lamella?
Yes. Any other board comment on policy? Seeing none?
If I can just
Oh,
make one comment, we are in need of a policy consultant. I emailed the policy committee. New Jersey School Board is coming into our next meeting to review and give a presentation on what they do, so that would be important to move forward, and hopefully we'll be moving forward, if not with them, with someone else in July.
Thank you. Any public comment on policy? Seeing no one?
Ms. Cusinelli?
Yes.
Ms. Cantillo?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Bacala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Lamella?
Yes. I'll open up the floor to public comment. Seeing none, board comment.
You missed one, John. Excuse
What did I
me,
miss?
gentleman in the back.
I'm sorry, sir, please.
No, anything.
No,
On
anything.
anything.
This is the wrap. This is general. You can come up and make a comment, sir. No, you're all right.
Okay. John Sluker again, 950 Sylvia Court. To the superintendent and the board, I noticed that we're spending a little bit more money on administration, administrative salaries, educational salaries, and things like that. And there's a little bit of increased spending on our schools. So if we need to spend some money to be useful to many students, I would like to suggest something that will cost each person in Brick another couple cents on their taxes. But as an alternative, I'm going to suggest the same thing, but a way to pay for it in user fees, which then will cost the taxpayer nothing. I believe the Board of Education should purchase a group of EpiPens for each school year. EpiPens, those auto-injectors, not supposed to do that. Auto-injectors offer emergency treatment of life-threatening allergic reactions caused by allergens, exercise, and unknown triggers, and for people who are increased risks for these reactions. EpiPens are intended for immediate administration as emergency support therapy only. The child still must seek immediate emergency medical help as soon as possible. I've been at several schools, and they all have some EpiPens, and it seems a large volume of EpiPens are just sitting in the nurse's office with a specific child's name on each. The nurse tells me that each year very few, if any, are ever used. They also tell me each EpiPen is given to the nurse by a child's family, and the child's name is put on it. This is stored with Benadryl, I guess, the same way. Okay? But I cannot believe that a child in need of this emergency treatment, that a nurse will go through the box and try to find the EpiPen with the child's name on it. Or if a child has no EpiPen there, then the nurse will ignore immediate need and just call the emergency squad while a child lapses into a coma or possibly dies. If the board would authorize purchase of about 100 EpiPens each year, again, I don't know the cost of these things, but 100 of them and maybe 40 bottles of Benadryl, and again, I don't know the cost, and deliver them to approximately, I think we have 12 schools in the district. Seems hard to believe that the cost for the district would be about $25,000 annually, especially if they're bought in volume like that. Now, if the board does not want to spend the $25,000, then they should tell each child's family that if it wants to possibly have their child covered by the school's EpiPen or Benadryl, they will not be required to bring one each year to the school, but will be required to participate in the program paying maybe $50 or maybe less each year. If they don't participate, however, and their child needs the EpiPen or Benadryl, they'll still be administered, but they will be charged the full price of the usage of the product. I would guess that 100 or more parents will participate in the program, and this will actually more than pay for the life-saving need. If this creates a surplus in funds, then the next year the board can reduce the payments to the parents. Thanks for time.
If I can just interject, we do have EpiPens that each nurse has not assigned to students for emergencies.
Then why do they require them to come in with names on the students?
Parents might send an EpiPen for their child, but we do have EpiPens available for
Parents
emergencies.
should not send it in.
Well, I'm not going to argue with the parent who wants to send it
No,
in.
the parents only send it in because they're pretty much told
I'm telling you that
if your child needs an EpiPen, they better be there.
Each school does have EpiPens available for emergencies.
So then the parents should not bring them in. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm telling you, each school has EpiPens for emergencies. That's what I'm telling you. If parents are sending them in or not, I don't know about that. I'm telling you, each school has EpiPens.
Oh, well then, maybe we should notify the nurses that they don't need to be having these EpiPens. instead of just making each parent pay. I would bet they're about over $150 a piece, for each parent, and then you just sit there all year long.
I'm not sure how much an EpiPen costs.
I'm guessing, but I know there might even be more than that. But maybe we should notify, once again, a little more open. The school district lets parents know that EpiPens are available. Do not send them in. Don't spend the extra money and waste those EpiPens just sitting there all year long. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Seeing no one else come forward, board comment. I'll start with, go ahead.
Thank you.
Karen.
First and foremost, I want to thank all the parents who are here tonight. It is so nice to look out and see other parents out here, because usually the room is empty. And and I don't know if Dr. Billen's wife is going to be really happy with how his head swells after all the nice things, but it really is so nice to hear such nice things about an administrator in our district, no matter what the outcome is. It is really nice, and I want to thank all of you for being here, and I'd like to encourage you to please come back. We need you out there, we need you up here, and you guys all deserve credit for being involved parents, because as great as our staff is and our administrators, a successful child has involved parents. That's really the greatest thing you can do for your kids, so thank you, and please come back. Since you haven't necessarily been here before, just so you know, just really quick, our superintendent makes recommendations to us. Board members are volunteers. We can't go into the schools and talk to teachers, and as that would be administering the schools, which is against our code of ethics. We have a lot of restrictions, and we can't administer the schools. So, if you have a question about that, email us, and we can kind of tell you what those guidelines are if you need that. So sometimes things that might seem obvious really aren't, because we have a different role. The summary that we're always taught is the board establishes the what's of the district, and the administration does the hows. And that's why it's important that we have a good superintendent, and we have to trust his recommendations as a educator. So just to kind of pass that along. Also, I would just like to request, maybe President Lamella, even though whether we do or whether we do not have to advertise contracts, I think that as a community, and in fairness to the public, I think we should put as many things out to the public as possible. We should be transparent. I also think that we as board members deserve equal information in a timely fashion. We should be receiving committee minutes. We should be getting the agendas sooner to have enough time, and it's very difficult. I know it was a little bit unusual that we only got the agendas on Monday this week as board members, but then there were all the changes, and it's very difficult, and it's difficult for the public to also go through and have to go over it and over it and over it. So I think that's something that the transparency on both sides for board members and the public is a nice goal to have. I also want to congratulate the administrators who are in new positions tonight, and thank Mrs. Joseph for her service to our schools and wish her well in her new endeavor. And I also wanted to say how nice it was. One of my favorite things as a board member is attending the commencements for the middle schools and the high schools. And this year, as Mr. Gianella said, the kids were extremely well behaved. It was it was beautiful weather, it was a nice day, and the administrators do a beautiful job of putting those ceremonies together. So good luck to all the kids starting high school and all the kids who have just graduated. Thank you.
Thank you. George?
Karen, you stole all my thunder. I certainly agree with everything that Karen said. We are lay persons, irresponsible for our backgrounds are, and we don't micromanage the schools. Our job is to basically set policy and take recommendations of the professionals, who is the superintendent, the chief school administrator, and the business administrator. So that's really what we intend to do. And in most cases, that's what we're going to do. But also, as Karen said, I want to compliment you all of you parents and students who came out tonight in support of your school and in support of your principal. That's very encouraging, and we need to see more of this from the entire district. But also, I'd like to add that I also attended the graduation ceremony of Vic's Middle School, Vets Memorial Middle School, and it was very well done. I want to compliment the students there, the parents, the administration for the job they did. And I also attended the graduation ceremonies for both Brick Memorial and Brick High School for the graduations. And again, it was just extremely well done. My compliments to the graduates, the parents, who were well behaved, by the way, and the administration and teachers for the job well done. So I really enjoyed the job that they did, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, George. John?
They make me follow the guy with all the wisdom. Thank you, George. I would like to say a few things. One, I'm going to go there with the appointment at Vets L. 2 years ago, on back-to-school night, 2 hours before back-to-school night, there was a principal change. There was administrative change. So I would like you to realize that it's not the most comfortable situation with what happened tonight, but looking over my shoulder, you're very lucky to have Mr. Tom Gianella, because he put this together just 2 days before on the agenda, but you also have all of July and all of August to settle this before the change had to be put in place. So this board, I think, is very transparent in those respects. I'm also a midstream school. I grew up in Carroll Fox Road, so I know the feeling of family. And I also grew up without a father, so this Father's Club brings tears to my eyes, because it probably is school that got me here sitting on the board and dedicating a lot of what I do to my community. I give back as much as I can. Thank you. And that's my next point. There's no reason why we can't have committee participation within a board. It's true, we make policy, that's our primary goal. But what you said and what I was thinking was exactly the same thing. If it works in your school, then let's bring it over to a school. Like when they moved the Emma Havens Young principal, there wasn't anybody here complaining about that move. And maybe they need some of what you do at Midstream School. I pat you on the back. I support in whatever way I can support you. So the committee isn't out of the question. It's difficult because there are a lot of restrictions that board members have, but those could be explained to you as well. And another comment I have is for people who make a lot of money and give back insurance, a lot of times that's how their raises are paid for. If you're going to pay for the whole plan for the insurance for that person, you're spending more money than what you've just given the person in a raise. So yes, the administrators are making a lot of money, and they know that they're probably capped out because not too long ago, the governor put limits on how much administrators could be making. So that could be taken into consideration in thinking of what our contracts and what our steps on our contracts will be in the future. Attending all graduations except for Vets Middle School, I was very pleased, and the weather was the best that I've ever had in graduations. It was a nice, cool night, and to hear the wisdom of the speakers and to hear that the high school students speaking as well, it was very inspiring. I really enjoyed the graduations. I myself got invited to Vets Middle School to give an award. Midstreams goes to Vets Middle School, I believe. So you're looking at a very good school to head over to. You're not going to have to just put for sale signs in front of your house. And wow, the politeness of you sitting through to the end of this meeting. I can't believe that nobody got up and walked out. That you sat here after you made your point. You're hearing what's going on. This is back and forth communication between the board and the community, and we need more of it. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, John. Stephanie?
I knew you guys were going to be here, being a Midstream mom myself. My daughter just graduated from Midstream, and Dr. B is amazing. It's amazing. And I know that we could probably fill the auditorium with fifth grades, parents of the fifth graders that are leaving, begging for us to move them over to the middle school that they're going to be going to, because he was very good at making the elementary school feel like a family. But I think that that's also what makes him so wonderful as us as parents and our fifth graders that are moving on to sixth grade will be taking a lot of what he's taught them over the last 5 years, and hopefully we'll be bringing it with us to the middle school as our children will. I also think that regardless of what Dr. B does moving forward, I think he's left quite a mark at Midstreams. I think he's put a lot of things in at Midstreams that you all as parents, again, regardless whether it's a board change or a career change for him, I don't see any of that going away, because I don't think you guys as parents are going to allow that to go away, because as you said, the father-daughter dances, the dad's clubs, the mom's clubs, getting involved. I mean, these are things that are going to stay because he is that good, and he does care that much about our children and about his school. So I knew you guys would be out here. He is wonderful, and I thank you for coming out. And I wish everybody a wonderful summer.
Aaron, go ahead.
I pretty much said everything that I wanted to say, but I do want to commend all of the parents that came out tonight. It wasn't so long ago that an issue brought me to a Board of Education meeting, and now I sit up here. So I would like all of you to think about that and continue to come to our meetings, and maybe one day think about running for a position here and moving on to making decisions for the district. There's nothing more moving than being a parent of children in this district and knowing what it's like to feel what you do and care about your teachers and administrators. It's a very, very strong bond. And for a parent as myself who did have children, I understand how you feel, and I understand the decisions that have to be made by administration. I don't want you to think that any decision is ever taken lightly. And if you ever have the opportunity to sit here, you will know how heavy some of them really are. I remember not so long ago, Ms. McNamara, there was an auditorium filled here when you were transferred. So Dr. Billen, Ms. McNamara, a lot of our administrators are very, very loved here. And that's wonderful to hear. That's what we want to hear. And thank you for coming and letting us know.
Thank you. Victoria?
I'm going to leap to summer days, summer sunshine, and summer school construction projects, and say how I'm looking forward to the projects that are going to improve our facilities this summer. When we all return in September, it's going to be just fabulous to have our parking lots and our gyms and our hallways renovated. And I'd like to do again another little mention of summer sunshine, and there's no sunshine like reading. And if you could all just access your parent information on the school district website about summer reading and get those summer reading projects done. You know, kids are great. They're enthusiastic about reading all school year long. And I don't think as parents we should let them blah, blah, blah us in the summer. So I just encourage you all to make that a fun experience for them, because it is really a valuable part of their summer and their back-to-school education. That's all.
Thank you. So now it's my turn. Everybody up here has crushed anything I could possibly say about the promotion of administrators, specifically Dennis Philippone and Billy Kleisler, people I've known. I've trusted Mr. Gillinella's recommendations with the other transfers, and I believe in them. That being said, everyone has talked about what a difficult position we are in. You are in difficult position. You are in difficult positions as parents. I happen to be one. but when somebody says for change's sake, none of the decisions that we thought about that were discussed were made for change's sake. You've clearly made your point to us, and you were heard. That's why I made the motion to table it, so we can go back and revisit this. So congratulations to the people that are moved. Congratulations to you for coming out, and thank you for sharing your sentiments with us as parents. Graduations were awesome. I'm not going to redigest that. It's 9:40, and you kids didn't have to go to the bathroom, and I did once. So that being said, thank you all for coming. Please enjoy the 4th. Please be safe. Next meeting dates. January 4th, school's closed. January 7th, special meeting to continue it. July.
July 7th. July, right.
Jesus. This is a guy with 2 master's degrees who can't read July. July 7th, special meeting. That'll be held at central office at 12 noon. That's really for the contractors to get the summer projects done for the construction.
Yeah, just so that everyone knows, there's just some bids that went out a little bit late. In order to get them done this summer, we have to have them approved on July 7th. That would be the only thing on the agenda, and we have a commitment of 4 members to come.
Right. That's it. The next regular meeting is July 28th at 7 p.m. here. Again, thank you, and I need a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Victoria first.
Second.
Second is Sharon.
Karen.
Karen. God, I suck at this. All right. Mary, please. This thing is so
Ms.
slow.
Cusinelli?
Yes.
Ms. Cantillo?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Bacala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Lamella?
Yes.